Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Scoundrels, Inc. It's our newest episode. We're talking Andor, Episode 9, Nobody's Listening.
If you enjoy what you see here, what you hear here, all of that, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment or like or whatever. Frank says that doesn't work, but I say just do it anyways.
That'd be nice.
Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at Scoundrels, Inc.
Also, we have a podcast feed, so if you don't want to watch our ugly faces, you can just listen to our ugly voices on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts from. We're probably on there, so go check us out. Yeah, that's it. We did it.
We did it!
Yeah! All right, so we got this latest episode. Nobody's listening. We're back on Narkina 5 with Kino Loy, not Snoke, and Cassian and the other inmates. We went back to Dedra and Syril. Holy crap, that's an interesting dynamic we'll get into. We also revisited some stuff on Ferrix with Bix. With Dedra, anyways, and the Dr. Gross is what I'm going to call him, Dr. Gross. That's not his actual name, but we'll
Do we know his actual name?
Grossed. Is it Gross?
Oh, it was.
That's a little on the nose if
Gorst?
his name's Gross.
Is it
Gross?
Gross?
I think it's Gorst. It can't be Gross.
I think it is.
It's
Yeah,
Gorst.
Gorst.
Yeah. Can I say we didn't do the thing where we turn in so we can like actually see each
turn
other?
in, tune in.
I want to like
turn in.
I want to
and
like
tune
act
in.
like I like each well I guess if I turn though.
All right, Kev.
Sorry.
That was a little weird.
Little too
A
aggressive.
little Cyril
for the
Dedra.
audio
Yeah.
listeners.
Yeah.
All right, so let's. I want to kind of just start with the stuff with Dedra pertaining to the ISB and how she goes to Ferrix. We'll get into the Syril crap later because, Jesus, that man is unhinged. Dedra with the ISB, giving this report to the council there, basically, right? Saying I've figured out Cassian's connected to Eldani. Prendergast is like, really, this is interesting. Keep going what you're doing. And so this is really emboldened Dedra, right, to continue what she's doing. She's, I think, more ferocious than we've ever seen in past episodes, Kevin. So when you see her now going to Ferrix, interrogating or interviewing Bix, where do we stand on Dedra now? Because we've talked about, are we rooting for her? Do we want her to succeed? But because we were rooting for her inside the Imperial ranks, now that she's out in the wild,
Not anymore.
Yeah, I don't even think the actress wants you to root for her. So
No.
yeah,
according to her own words, I think. Right?
I think Sean still roots for her because he has no
yeah.
soul and he's a terrible
Absolutely.
he
human
roots for
being.
Imperials.
He roots for everybody bad. But no, I think that, this whole thing and then her turning it up a notch with the torture is, I think, just what the doctor ordered, pun intended.
Come
on.
Dr. Gorst.
Sorry, that was bad. But I just say, because I think Dedra, the actress, her name is Denise Gao, and I think that she was in on it. I think she knew that everybody would be rooting for her as a woman in a man's field, and all these people that are probably talking down to her and treating her like garbage in the Imperials, and you're rooting for her to like come out on top against Blev and Smets and all those other people. But then she has a quote that I want to read to you. This is what the actor said. She says, "Dedra is not just a woman in a man's world, but a fascist in a world of fascists. It was important to see that power corrodes women as much as man." So, and you're seeing that here. And I think that's cool. Like, I think that women should be as much feared as men. Women evil characters are allowed to be evil as well. So, and not just in the typical cliche type that other things you'd see them in. So, I'm real excited to see where it goes. We'll get your opinion on it too, and then I can tell you how dark torture is, even on a genetic DNA level, which I mentioned earlier today on the Star Wars Explained show.
Yeah, and I have some disagreements with that, but we'll talk about that when you get to it. I will say the
Yes, you do.
The line that freaking sold it for me was, the last thing you want to do is bore me.
Yeah,
That's
right.
Because it opens up. It doesn't open up on the ISB stuff. It opens up on her interrogating
right.
Bix, and they give her audio torture, which is horrific, especially because we didn't really we're probably going to reference this a couple times today, so I'll say it off the bat. We were over on Star Wars Explained doing No Ifs and or Buts with Molly and Alex. Thank you so much for having
Great
us.
time.
We fucking
Awesome.
love you guys.
I loved our sketches too.
But the sketch, that was a good gimmick.
Yeah.
That was a good. I had the best sketch. Absolutely.
Yeah.
My-
I cannot draw for the life of me, so I was like, Dr. Gross.
Mine was the most accurate. Obviously, it was Snoke
Yeah.
Pretty
saying
good.
never
I feel
mind
like you
yourself.
traced it.
I did not trace it. I did not trace it, but I did reference it with a piece of.
Oh, that's fine,
Yeah,
reference.
I referenced it, but I'm not a tracer. I am not a tracer. Fans of
There's
Mallrats.
nothing wrong
He
with
traced.
being a tracer, by the way. But what I was saying was, they gave them they were doing audio torture, and she had that wonderful line. The last thing you want to do is bore me, because that's where she's.
It's not just the line, which is very important.
It's
but
the intimidation in her
face,
face
yeah.
is disgusting.
Was there a line near that area too, where she's like, "I don't think you'll believe me anyway," right? And
Big
she-
says that. Yeah.
Yeah.
which is also another
And,
line.
and
Good
Dedra's
banger.
like, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
But
Right. Well, and that's the
work.
issue. That's the issue with torture, and this is true with advanced interrogation techniques that police forces use or whatever. Any confession you get under coercion is not. It's
in this world,
I would say in that world too.
well,
That's
everything she
kind
was
of
saying though,
You're right.
it's like,
but
dang, she.
How
How else did she find that out?
you're right.
You know?
But we're not seeing innocent characters. We're seeing characters who are not innocent.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Sure.
So if you're framing it from the perspective of an innocent character, that's where that issue is going to come in. But these characters are not innocent, so that's wholly on the other side. Now, what they're doing is good and not evil, but they're still not innocent. But yeah, the torture. Dr. Gorst just shows so much pleasure in torture. Now, Kevin, you've got a thing about the torture here.
Well, just I like to make things even more unpleasant for people. But when we first had our child, obviously, a lot of crying going on.
Not us collectively, you and your wife.
Yeah, me and my wife,
Well, I
we
was
have a
crying,
child.
too.
No, but we didn't have a child.
You're crying because
together.
you lost your
Yeah,
buddy.
I lost my friend. I was like,
Yeah.
oh no.
So the child screams are very disconcerting. They're very they really do affect you. And like when Dasha went through the training with the nurses and stuff like that, they were literally telling us that on a genetic level we are preconditioned to the cries, the sound of a crying baby really bugs us on a genetic deep level in our cells, because what happens is back in the day, if you didn't care that a baby was crying, if you just looked at it like, oh, that baby's crying, you would just ignore the baby and then the baby dies. So on a genetic level, on a very biologic level, the sound of babies or any sort of children crying will affect you. And it's true, because when my child cries, like, you want to do anything in your power to stop her from crying, right? And it's not just because I love her, it just really dials you in, and you'll know when you have a kid. But even now with this, you're hearing dying children die in this Oculus headset thing or whatever, and so that's just on a genetic level probably bothering Bix even more. But you have no soul, and you're going to say something.
No. That is not
All right, yeah,
my.
let's
So
hear
that's
this.
not my point.
Let's hear
My point is that is not a human on the other end of that recording.
Have you ever heard a cat dying? Would you like to hear a cat dying on stuff?
I wouldn't like to hear a cat.
That was
die,
my point
But
earlier
I'm
as
not.
well.
But I'm not genetically predisposed to go help the cat. I'm genetically predisposed to go avoid whatever harmed the cat, because it's probably a bigger predator than the cat, right? And which is why I mentioned Ithorians, because
I love
and
Ithorians.
You're right, but what is their genetic ability?
You go ahead.
They have a.
I'm sorry. I retired. I'm not in this show
They
now
have
anymore.
a bellow that is
from KOTOR. I remember.
not
the voices.
just. I'm not just talking about how they talk. They have a bellow that can wound people, right? And I think, based on what Dr. Gorst was saying, was that whatever species was on that planet has some sort of auditory.
Oh, so it's not just the horrible thing to hear. Oh,
no,
I didn't
because
catch that.
we see Bix screaming, or hear Bix screaming.
Yeah.
Right. I do think there is some sort of auditory torture.
Yeah,
If
he
I
does talk about that.
If
You're
I
right.
put the right pitch in your ear, I'm gonna blow out your eardrum.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, 100%.
Star
You're blowing
Wars-
out my eardrum right now with this nonsense.
Sure.
You soulless man, you.
I'm. That's not what I'm saying at all.
I know.
Right? It's not human. Bix is a human.
Yeah.
She is predisposed to help humans, or at least abhumans. Right?
You know what I love about this though? Like we're arguing the merits
We're
of like,
arguing the merits
oh,
of-
that wouldn't happen, but there are space lasers and laser swords and
Well,
people
no,
that jump buildings, but
that's
no,
what-
the
but that's
predisposition-
exactly where I'm going. Is that I think it's probably worse where there is actual pain being inflicted based on the auditory defense
'cause-
mechanisms of the species.
Yeah, because what if you kidnap a terrible person who doesn't care about kids dying, and they're like,
Right.
oh, I could listen to this all day. I love kids dying. Yeah.
Some sort of sociopath that doesn't have or want kids.
yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't pay to get into Disneyland.
Look,
Side story. We'll talk about that
We'll
later.
talk about that. That's for a future episode.
All right, so this doc, though, I will say he would fit right in with the doctor from Human Centipede. I feel like,
or Nazi Germany.
God.
or just
Good one.
Nazi Germany, as a whole.
Terrible person.
Just maniacal and diabolical and every other ical.
You said
word.
something too, how he was just so casual about.
Yeah, he was just so
And joyful.
as if it was normal for him.
He was happy.
Yeah, he was happy.
He has that fucking
He was
sadistic
like, you
smile.
wouldn't believe what we found on this planet. These things, when they start doing their noises, it like cripples you. So,
Yeah,
like,
so
you
see-
die.
see,
and
that's
so
what I'm saying.
we did.
I gotta
was
rewatch it now.
We just recorded that, and now we're gonna put it in your ears, and you're believe me, you're gonna hate this.
What a novel concept. What a novel. Like, aren't you excited?
Yeah.
I'm excited. Why
so
aren't you excited?
So excited.
It was
Excited.
It was, and the fact that they took the time in this episode to explain all of this and break it down just added to the atmosphere of this interrogation tactic and the cruelty behind it. Really, it made it hit that much harder. And look, Bix,
You love Biggs.
I love Bix.
We don't blame you.
I love Biggs. You love Bix.
No, that's
and
Alex.
Also,
Yes.
Dedra is the one who okayed the interrogation, so she's on the list. Dr. Gross is on the
On the
list.
list?
Chris Jericho.
That hurt
Yeah,
your-
exactly. That's what I
that
tweeted
hurt,
out.
hurt
Saw
your
that.
baby girl.
You just made the list.
Yeah. No, yeah, there's no loving Dedra after this. I mean, but again, my point about rooting for Dedra, it's more that we need cool villains.
Yeah, she's a
Right.
very good villain.
Like
I will agree.
Dr. fucking Gorst is sinister, but they're not a cool villain, right?
No. Because, I mean, he's still, like, that's all we've seen from him, so...
Sure.
At this point, and I don't think we're going to really get that much more from
No.
him. But
I mean,
it was...
maybe, I don't know.
I mean, maybe. Look, the
Do you think, okay, Kevin, go with me here.
Okay.
What do you think happens to Dr. Gorst between now and Rogue One to make him morph into Borgullet?
That's actually a really good theory. Let's go right up there
Yeah,
with my
right up there with-
Clea is Leia
Yeah,
theory.
no, we're not.
Jesus.
Oh, that's
we'll
for
have,
next.
we'll
That's
have
for next
none of
week.
that.
So
We'll have none of that.
Clea is Leia. Get that for the T Public store.
No.
No.
Borgullet.
Deception. Pork cutlet.
We're going to do a whole
Did we
episode
talk about
just like that.
Did we talk about what's his name last week? We did, right?
Saw? Yeah, we did. Saw and Listen, yeah.
Are you-
Were you here for that? You were here for that.
I was here.
We
I
didn't
was
talk
out.
about it a whole lot, but
I
we did
was
touch on
so fucking out of it last week. I don't.
it. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Speaking of love, did we talk about love? But that's me saying. Speaking of love, what about Syril's love?
What
for
a great
Dedra?
segue.
Thank you.
Oh my
He loves
God.
when we point out the segues.
I do.
This is a fantastic
I
segue.
so do. Let's
Speak-
talk about the segues some more.
Yeah.
How great was it for you?
Episode,
Come on, keep
Was,
going.
Episode
Kevin,
10,
was the
Segue
segue as
City.
good? Was the segue as good for you as it was for me?
so good,
We love a good segue.
dude.
I mean,
Everyone
whether
loves a
it's
good segue, and
or
I
a
don't
bad
mean this
segue.
thing. I don't mean
Segue
this
is
thing.
segues.
I don't mean that thing, right? The segue.
I haven't been
Easy
segued like that since college.
before you were born.
I will segue anywhere I want. I will.
Someone's gonna bleep this one time, and it's gonna sound like we're saying something other than segue.
Well,
Anyways,
Hey,
Syril.
if they do, it means we made it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
Yeah, no one's done any negative memes about us yet. I'm kind of sad we're not.
Or positive ones.
don't worry. I'll make a fake account and do that.
Please make a burner where you just make fun of us.
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
But yeah, Syril is Syril for Dedra. By the way, can I ask a question? Why is Dedra so insistent on not accepting his help? Wouldn't you just want someone's help?
No.
I think it's because
Why not?
she doesn't
Okay,
want to think
because-
Cyril.
Or she's playing hard to get.
No,
Well, and-
I don't think she wants Cyril to keep going to her for like advice or help and thinking that she's in his corner. She's not in his corner.
Well, and the other thing, if you add a dose of realism to it, right? What happens if Frank just goes up to a random CIA agent and goes, "Hey, I want to help you on your case." The CIA agent's going to go, "No, what the fuck is wrong
Hold
with
on,
you?"
but if
and
the
then
CIA
lock you
first
up.
brought him into questioning and he was involved in the
No.
situation, then he was like,
That's-
"Hey, let me help.
Nope, still no.
Take him to Guantanamo."
Still no.
or
That's
whatever.
not how government agents. Because that's the issue, right? It's a government agency.
Yeah.
I still think that he will end up working with or for the ISB in some way, shape, or
You think
form.
they'll fall in love?
No.
I've
Imagine they're kids.
I'm changing my tune on what's going to happen with Dedra and Cyril. I think what's going to happen, what could possibly happen here is Cyril is going to continue on this path of finding justice for the Empire, and he's going to
Justice.
keep doing it against Dedra's wishes, and he's going to end up getting in the way of Dedra, and Dedra's going to kill him. I think that's how he's going to die.
Yeah, I think it'll be some permutation of that, or just where he's going to.
And he's going to look at her the last time and be like, "You're gonna."
But I loved you.
And does he say before he dies, rebellions are built on hope, or no?
Yeah. Now
empires are built on tyranny.
I had said that this was. I had said on the show something along the lines on Alex's show something along the lines of, this was like a bridge too far for him. I wasn't trying to say this was out of character for him. I was just saying we haven't seen him go this far into being this like land of desperation. The other thing was his eyes. If you look at him, which his eyes are always kind of a little pink,
Crazy.
but he definitely had like dry pink eyes in that scene too. Like looks like they had tried to accentuate that a little bit. That look of desperation was there.
Yeah, he definitely is a desperate individual at this point, and that's why you stalk the path to the ISB, the building, whatever, just to find Dedra.
That's how I met my wife. I stalked her all the time in Seattle, and then finally,
especially because she was off.
That's
planet.
a joke.
Yeah,
right.
That's right. She was
so
off
that's why it was important to me to point out that like, hey, the episode didn't start with her in an ISB meeting. She was on Ferrix.
Yeah.
Because he's been doing this every few days, and she's not even on planet.
Syril reminds me of someone who would believe wholeheartedly in QAnon. Like,
oh no,
no, you don't think he would?
I do, but I was thinking of someone specific.
Oh, go ahead. Then what are you going to say?
No, I'm not going to out them here on the show. They know who they are.
Okay.
You know who
Look,
you are.
I'm right here, bro.
No,
I'm
right
right
you,
here.
Not you. No one here on this show today.
Roger that.
Who's Roger?
Yeah.
Who is Roger? They're making fun of my dad.
Syril does remind me of just like a QAnon supporter who fully believes in this idea of some form of justice, and we have to do this to make sure we secure our the empire or what have you. And he's like blindly following all this stuff, and it is going to be to his detriment at the end of the day. I really feel like there's no, I don't see a positive outcome for Syril in his life in this show.
Would you say detriment?
Damn, that's really good. His detriment.
Imagine going on a double date with Syril and Dedra.
Absolutely not.
No.
Like to Dex's diner.
Why would I take
No.
Dedra on a date?
Yeah.
And why would you go on a date with Syril?
No. That's good. You're funny.
You. So we're going on dates. Yeah, that's great.
Speaking of dates, Frank, what's the sponsor of today's show?
Red Bull?
Yeah.
Oh, you brought us all Red Bulls?
No.
Yeah. What's the gift today? Aren't we supposed to get?
Oh no, because normally, see, I brought the meat sticks 2 weeks ago. He brought the Reese's
with potato chips in
potato
them.
chips. So it was your turn to.
Where's our gift?
They're over there in that box, actually.
Oh
yeah.
So this
see,
Are you gonna give it to us or?
after the show.
How will the fans know? That
yeah,
we
well,
got
the
it?
fans,
They
the
won't
fans,
know.
they're invested in the storyline.
It's just for us.
So this is gonna be a story arc. It's a 3-episode arc for next week.
It's exactly following Tony Gilroy's path.
Speaking of this arc, by the way,
Yeah.
very great writing, and the writer is Bo Willimon, who Willimon. Bo Willimon, who also was a writer on House of Cards. And so
it shows.
It's absolutely.
yeah, it's fantastic.
I mean,
writing.
writers from The Americans, House of Cards, like all of that stuff.
They're
It
knocking
just
it
really
out of the park.
It really just shows
That's the perfect staff of writers to get for this show.
I mean, if this is the tone you're going for, this
Yeah.
is the vibe you're going for. They absolutely knocked it out of the park with these writers.
And really, you can really see it in the Mon Mothma scenes,
Especially.
What a
Even
great-
the
Good
IC
segue.
What a great segue.
What a great segue into Mon Mothma.
Let's go. So what do you got? What do you got for us?
What do you got, Kevin?
Well, Mon Mothma, I just want to say during the Senate scene, I kept looking for E.T., didn't spot him.
I immediately looked for Palpatine in the middle, but he wasn't there.
See, I'm
Well,
not looking
so-
for Palps. He's
so
not
I'm
there, but
still-
It wasn't that
E.T.
session.
Where's E.T.?
Again, we kind of brought this up on.
Would E.T. be pro? Like, would he be like down with the Republic, or would he be like, let her talk?
Well, E.T., he'd be on Mon Mothma's side. The rest of his species, I can't speak for.
But
I
would
don't
we
know.
call him E.T.? Because isn't everybody in that room an extraterrestrial?
What is his species name?
There is a name.
They made it.
It was in the last Schmodown.
Was it?
It was in either the last one or the second to last.
What is the name?
Yeah, what is it?
I sense a
don't-
short coming up here. What is E.T. species?
You know, come back to me.
Okay, we'll reset the shorts for
So
later.
you're talking about Mon Mothma. She's in the Senate, and she's giving this speech, and people are, saying, yeah, listen to her, and other people are like, shut up, basically, and turning off the lights on their pods. And honestly, I was getting infuriated for her. I was like, for the love of God, just like chill out. Let her say what she's going to say and not have to talk over her or disrespect her.
Have you ever seen footage of Parliament? What it's like?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's very
much. Yeah,
Parliament that people will stand up and be like,
yeah,
like you're a fart, you, and I'll do that stuff like that. Like, it reminded me of
rowdy
Parliament
over there. I've seen clips.
They party at Parliament.
They even get in fights.
Party Parliament.
Party.
I got it.
By the way, Asagonians were paddle-footed, large-eyed, sentience indigenous to Proto-Asogi. During the last decades of the Galactic Republic, the Asogians were represented in the Galactic Senate by Senator Grebelpiss.
Grebelpiss?
Really?
I was really hoping for a Reese's Pieces connection,
And a-
like a Reese's Reese's
and
Or
a
Budweiser.
trio of
Yeah.
aides. When the Republic became the Galactic Empire at the conclusion of the Clone Wars, Grebelpiss was charged with treason.
No way.
And the Asagonians' home planet became part of the autocratic new government.
Damn.
More than 20 years later, during the Galactic Civil War, an Asagonian info chant named Braxis operated on the outer rim planet of Soleil.
I thought you were going to say Earth.
Ole.
I thought you were going to wrap it back
Of
into
Earth.
our... Yeah.
Where he befriended an Earthling named Elliot.
Hell yeah.
Elliot is now canon.
Elliot is canon.
There's an Elliot out there.
Alex,
Is there a
Alex
Wikipedia
Damon,
page
Molly
for
Damon,
Elliot?
That's your next video. Get on that.
Thanks for the info
The
dump on that one.
Asagonians.
That was great.
But yeah, great Senate scenes, very chaotic, and
like,
and by the way, now I'm convinced that maybe Palpatine doesn't show because he's right. Why would he care? He's never going to show up there.
He
Maybe we
doesn't-
get a slime
he
more.
does not
That's
give
it.
a shit.
He's gonna show. He's
So
gonna show.
also, I
hope
find it
so.
really interesting that we haven't seen anyone on the pulpit
Yeah.
in the center, right? And it's not that like we can't see who's there. Like you could see it in frame.
Maybe it's a
and
short,
there's-
like an Ewok or something. Evil Ewok.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that's the.
Probably
it
have.
could,
You're right. He'd have a box.
it could be an Asagonian though.
It could be, and they just need a box, or he just, his head next.
No, I just don't.
Order.
I just wonder how the Senate operates under that condition.
I was gonna. The Senate reminds me of like when in school when you had like a substitute teacher,
Oh,
they just
yeah.
pop in at the beginning of the class, like, "Hey, turn to page 34, read the 2 chapters."
Yeah.
And
You know what I think
And then the
that's-
substitute teacher bounces.
I
and
think
it's like,
that's.
go ahead.
I think that's probably really fair. Or like if your teacher doesn't show up at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's
It's
what's
just a
going
party
on.
in the room.
And they're just kind of like, it almost feels like it's running on, like it's running on reflex at this point or running on muscle memory.
Yeah.
Like where there's no one in the center, but all the senators have been senators for so long that they just know what to do, what to say, like how to run the fucking.
Because what is the motivation for them to even show up? Like it's like, oh great, Mon Mothma's got another speech.
Get the paycheck.
The,
Get your paycheck.
the motivation for them to show up is the fact that they are senators, and that's kind of what we're seeing. And again, last week we mentioned that sort of we see a little bit of this in Tales, and we're going to talk about it
Yeah.
when we do our Tales episode. But they're senators, and that's who they are. At this point, they're so spoiled and greedy and gluttonous on
fat,
their to quote the
Cassian.
Andor line in the trailer, right? Like they're so used to this lifestyle of being a senator that they don't know any different. I don't think there's any structure to what's being run on
Yeah, it doesn't
on
seem
that
like
Senate.
it.
I also don't think anything's getting done. Do I think that individual senators are getting things done either for the Empire or against the Empire? Yes, but I don't think that anything as a complete body
Yeah.
is getting done.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem like it, and they're not really delving into that, which is fine. We don't need to know all that
No,
stuff.
but we also know as Star Wars fans, we're 5 years off of the dissolution of the Senate.
Yes,
right.
that's right.
So we know in 5 years that the Emperor is going to dissolve the
It's gonna
Senate.
be a big blitzball, sphere. That's a Final Fantasy X reference for y'all if you didn't get it.
Do you know football's canon in Star Wars?
Why did I hear about that?
So it's
Is it
in
because the robots are playing
the
football in
robots
Attack
are
of the
playing
Clones?
football in the
oh
Outlander
yeah,
Club.
that's
in the Attack
right.
of the Clones.
That's right. That's
so
right.
you can see on the wall in the Outlander Club, there's a screen.
That's right.
Of droids playing football.
I
Oh,
thought
it
it
could
was
be
like,
rugby too or something.
No, it's definitely they do a hike. Like it's full on football.
They hike in rugby too, don't they?
Yeah,
but-
well, it's a form of hiking. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not.
Is there a
quarterback.
robot there saying like "Red Omaha, Red Omaha"?
Yeah.
And it's Peyton Manning droid, so it would be
I want
PM.
you know what?
Peyton Manning is a droid. What are you talking about?
I want.
True.
Hey, Star Wars. Give us a series of shorts of sports in Star Wars. Like Tales from the Jedi, but it's
yeah.
one episode's
I
pod
want to
racing.
see what pool looks like.
One episode could be
Like
pod racing.
billiards.
One episode could be pod racing. One episode could be like
Would
poker with Sabak.
Would
Or
love a
Pazik.
meta style like new Sports Center show where you just need a half an hour. It would be funny to like show like, oh, we're covering all the sports across the galaxy. First, we're going to go over to the Buddha Eve race, and then we'll head over
Maybe
to
we can
Coruscant
just cut
Stadium
that.
for football with the robots, and then the droids.
Do you think maybe we can just cut that together?
Would be really fun.
for
Get
it.
a nice little ticker.
No, I mean like
You know how to do
as
tickers.
channel.
Oh,
Hey.
you know what? Yeah, that's something to think about.
That might be fun. We have to write
Once
it
we're
first.
not reviewing
Andor
or
Bad Batch or Mandalorian
God, I can't
or
wait.
Tales.
So when Star
I
Wars,
can't wait till we
There's
have.
so much.
I can't
Oh
wait
my
till
God.
we have a couple free episodes to just.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
Those would
which
be fun.
Those would be fun. So Mon Mothma, she leaves the Senate, and you just see her face in her car,
Yeah.
basically, right? Just
She's like, just drive.
just go, good God! And then she gets word that her cousin is popping into town, visiting her at her apartment, and she's like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah."
Auntie
And
Vel.
she's like, "Oh, okay." And then
In
he's
an
like,
act-
"Should I go?" And so they go
in an act of
Yeah.
character upgrade, if you're talking about like Final Fantasy or whenever you like level up, like they leveled up to me. It's to reveal it is Vel. Vel is her cousin, and like what levels that up for me is they're already putting so much on the line. But when you hear that now Vel, who's living in camping on remote planets and doing these heists and stuff like that, and put her life on the line, to know that she's from that decadent lifestyle
yeah.
in Chandrilia,
we got that glimpse of that last week when Cinta.
But I don't think we knew if that was like a disguise just to fit in.
I had a
or
feeling-
if that was actually.
I don't
more
think
to
we
it.
talked about this on the episode, but I had it in my
okay.
in my notepad. We find out Vel is a rich girl.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, you don't.
Oh,
you
I
find
thought you were
that
gonna
out
say-
after she's talked to Clea. You find that after because Vel
mean-
talked
Oh,
to Clea.
you're talking 2 episodes back.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah.
last episode
Oh,
with Cinta.
okay.
yeah, they
Okay,
make
yeah,
that
yeah.
one.
Last
mention.
episode was Cinta. Well, we did remark when she met Clea how different and how good she looks as this.
Yeah,
sort
we
of
did talk about that,
affluent-
but
like she looks like she fits in, but with
You guys, it's Leia, but continue.
right. Sorry, Kevin.
Yeah.
But with
It's Leah.
last episode, Cinta says, when they're
Right.
talking about who her disguise will be, she very cattily says, "I'll be a spoiled
a
rich
great
girl
hint.
who abandoned her family."
Right.
And I knew that was directed at Vel because that's who Vel was. I didn't think that Vel was a Mothma.
No.
So how shocked were you guys when that happened?
I was pretty surprised because I had been thinking about. I'm like, I did think, what if she is related to Mothma? But I didn't know how that would be done, and then I was like, I don't think it's gonna happen. But I didn't even think about like the cousin, like the extended family version of how
Right.
she could be related
See-
to Mothma. Whereas a lot of theories were like, well, maybe she's Luthen's daughter.
I hadn't heard that one.
See, I didn't
Wait,
even.
really?
No.
I didn't
I heard
even
that one a
believe
lot.
the cousin part at first. I thought, like in mobster
Oh,
movies
yeah.
where they're like,
Right, I
"Oh,
thought it
hey, your uncle's here," and you're like, "My uncle," and then the guy shows up. He's like, "Yeah, I'm your uncle," even though it's not your uncle. But that's
Right.
so.
Right.
Even
I
until
thought it
the
was-
scene with the dress, I was like, "Oh,
Like, it's just
I
like
thought it
cover,
was
like a
I thought it was a
story,
cover.
basically. Yeah.
At first, I thought it was a cover, and then that happened.
like your cousin."
And like, yeah.
So yeah, it's I did love the interaction between Vel and Lita because that's sort of the first time we've seen Lita really
Happy?
interacting in any way, shape, or form positive.
Yeah.
And she has that line where, "Well, Dad lets me do it," and
Yes.
because Mon's like, "I don't know if you should wear that," and she's like, "Dad'll let me wear it. Dad lets me do whatever I want." It's like, is this? I don't know if the acting for Lita has been off because again, I've kind of had this conspiracy theory that Lita's doing something behind the scenes, and I don't think it's like something Empire related. Again, I think it's she's sneaking off to go, kiss boys or
or other
Death
aliens,
sticks,
yeah.
Death sticks,
death sticks or space weed. I don't know.
Sweet. I knew.
Wait, no.
I
That's
knew.
different.
I knew it. I knew you were going there too.
It's Sweed.
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 Hey, you want to buy some death sticks? No, you want some sweet?
Sparawana.
That was.
Marijuana.
Did you see the deleted scene from Attack of the
Yeah.
Clones? That's what he says. He says Sparawana, and then he says death sticks.
Hey, you want to buy some Sparrowana?
Some Speed.
My name's Alon Sleeves Begano. Do you want to buy some Sparrowana?
I got some Revnog for you too.
Did I, Kevin? You weren't at Celebration. There were like.
Oh, thanks for rubbing that in.
Well, it's almost like
because thousands of people were.
Well,
and you weren't.
I wasn't.
And-
Did you
and
pay
Ke-
for your ticket to Celebration?
I didn't.
Just like
Kevin,
in Disneyland, you never pay for Disneyland. This guy doesn't pay for
Kevin,
anything. Yeah.
You were also offered free tickets to Celebration, weren't you?
Uh-oh.
And you were busy.
Insert awkward
I couldn't
pause.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So quit your bitching over there.
You're right.
But
I thought I'd squeeze by that
Yeah.
one.
No. You were offered free tickets to Celebration, and you said, I can't.
I couldn't
It's my
go.
daughter's friend's birthday.
Woo.
Tough.
Anyways, there were a couple of Lawn Sleeves Begano cosplayers.
Really?
And they were like, they would like hand out like these little pixie sticks or these like honey sticks, and it was really,
Love that.
really hilarious.
I'm going this time. I'm going to go to the next one. And I am, by the way,
not
going to Comic-Con
Not
this year.
the next one.
It's in Europe, buddy.
The next one's in London. None of us are going to London.
Oh, I'm going to London, guy. Lundies,
all
bro.
right. If you go to London, that's great.
I got to represent the shows. Look, let's be honest. The show's going to be so huge by then. We're going to all be invited
Right.
to our own
Yeah.
panel.
I don't think that's
Hall
how.
H in London.
Look, hey Matt Gunner, I'm crashing on. If we get invited we're crashing on your couch.
They're going to put us up. Come on.
That's not
Star
how-
Wars is going to.
they
They
don't-
love our show.
They don't like put up people that have.
But they're going to put up the Scoundrels, bro. Hashtag
yeah,
Scoundrel Squad goes overseas. Hashtag.
yeah. Hashtag Scoundrel Squad. .. Goes over.
All right, so while we're still at Mon Mothma's, though, Tay Kolma shows up, and he's talking to.
So he's alive. Remember, he thought maybe he would be dead. Off
Trust me. Wait,
No,
Perrin
you-
said something
hold on.
that made me.
You thought he'd be dead.
No,
No,
you
I did.
guys, you
He
did.
did.
Yeah, I did. But then Perrin says something. He makes a remark about, oh yeah, Mon's old boyfriend, and I'm like, oh, this dude is keeping tabs. He's watching.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh. Tay
Hey,
Kolma's-
shout out! You know what? Quick shout out to our producer.
Yeah.
Producer, how you doing?
Thank
you.
Cool. Thank you.
Producer actually has seen my KOTOR movie.
But
He's got to keep that bit alive.
Perrin says to the table with Vel there and everything, Tay's been coming around more often. These Chandrillans are stopping by a little bit more often. Mon Mothma's old boyfriend, and to me, I was like, oh yeah, Perrin's keeping an eye on this.
Yeah.
And if he gets word, I feel like here's what's gonna happen, or could happen. He's gonna for some reason kind of like dive into Tay and kind of like follow him and see what he's up to, and he's gonna inadvertently figure out what Mon Mothma and Tay are doing. In
I
terms
love
of
that.
the moving the
he's
money
convinced they're having an
around.
affair, but
And
he's gonna.
and hold on. And with the thug and getting involved in that stuff, and Perrin's gonna end up going probably to Mon to confront. I feel like there's got to be some other confrontation between Perrin and Mon at some point, because this kind of just orbiting one another in this like eventually they have to. I feel like butt heads one way or another.
So out of his desire to see if they're having an affair, he stumbles upon a much larger scheme, and then what does he do? That's great.
Okay,
Yeah.
here's my issue with that. We haven't really had scenes.
He's not biologically connected to
Yeah,
crying babies.
he's not. Yeah,
to crying.
biologically, he wouldn't be affected by
yeah.
Tay Kolma crying.
That's what you call a callback. Okay.
No, it's just the you have to look at it from a production standpoint, right?
Okay.
But this show hasn't shown that character doing anything by themselves at all. They're not a point of view character for this
That's
show.
why you don't see it coming, but I do.
That's fair. That's fair.
He's playing.
But I also
he's playing
you're right.
4D
I don't know.
chess.
I don't know. I kind of feel like that is a possibility. I would expect it to happen more likely next season.
Yeah,
we don't
yeah.
have a lot of time.
That's true.
In the 3 episodes we
yeah.
have left, we don't have a lot of time to set up for that. I just don't see it. Now, can I see him tipping someone off? Like, hey, look into Tay Kolma, right?
Yeah, that absolutely.
That more likely, but him actually going through the effort of like
him doing it himself, yeah.
him doing it himself.
Right,
I don't see it for the other reason being that he's kind of fucking incompetent.
I mean,
Right?
Is he though?
Yeah,
he
he's-
plays the fool.
No, I think you're right about that, and I think I like Perrin a little bit better than
Most,
most.
sure.
Well, you like
because-
Dedra too, so you have no soul.
You know, it's almost like
No
I can't.
soul
It's
Sully.
almost like I can't get an opinion on this show.
No, you
without-
you
okay.
have an opinion.
You're
we just
evil.
push back
That's
on
all.
it.
Yeah.
So no, I think that because I think Perrin's in a bad spot as a husband. Period. Right? Because he's been married to this woman for at least 15 years.
At least, yeah.
Right?
15, 20, 25 years. Yeah.
Probably closer to 25, and they just are not compatible. Right?
I mean, anymore, I guess.
Anymore, absolutely. We all question if it's some sort of arrangement or just an artifact of tradition.
Yeah.
And it's pretty clear that I don't think he's malicious. I just think he's ignorant.
Sure.
Right.
Tough spot too, like because you could tell he cares about his daughter, and in the first time we see him,
I
remember
also
where
think-
he's like, "Oh, you don't spend enough time on her."
I
as
also
it
do
is."
think he cares about Mon. He just doesn't care about what Mon cares about.
Absolutely. And I think what sheds light on that point is the fact that he brings up that Tay Kolma is, or as he believes, Tay to be an old boyfriend of mine. You just
Right.
don't say that if you don't really care,
Well,
or if it doesn't. if you're not paying attention.
It could have been painted differently, like in a teasing way, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was more of a malicious way. Malicious, maybe not
More or
being the right
less,
word.
more or less.
But I did love him saying like, "Oh, maybe you'll find a husband to Vel."
Oh yeah.
And
have you found a husband yet?
Yeah, and Vel just being like, all the good ones are taken.
She was not on my list of things to do.
I like that too. That also shows that Perrin doesn't really take an interest in Vel because if Vel's out or whatever, that he would know. He would
Right.
Obviously.
Especially if Vel hasn't been around much, which is what it seems like.
True.
Because even Mon's kind of trying to be like, hey, stay around for a while. And then she quotes Cinta's line that, we're in a rebellion.
Yeah.
We take whatever's left over.
This Vel repeating those lines from Cinta seemed very robotic to me, as if Vel is removing her emotion, and because I think she feels so much angst and pain that she can't be with Cinta, that she's just numbing herself to the fact that she can't really have what she wants. It's all for the cause, and that's worthwhile. And what she's saying to Mon in those scenes is almost in a way convincing her of also what needs to be done, and putting aside her personal feelings towards Cinta. As much as she's relaying that to Mon as like stay on the path, she's also, I think, in a way, reaffirming herself that she's doing the right thing as well. So I think it goes hand in hand with both herself and Mon.
Well, there's that line. I think I wrote this down. She says, Mon Mothma says something about like, what are we even doing? Like,
yeah,
it's so, and she says, we've chosen a side. We're making something of our lives.
yeah,
Right. And
Great
that
line.
line so solidifies it as like Vel is for the cause. And that's why Vel is a rich girl that ran away from home, because clearly she has ideals. Right. It's not because Cinta kind of paints it as a negative thing, right? Like where Cinta has reasons to fight, Vel doesn't really have a reason to fight. She's well off, and she's from a
she could sit on the sidelines if she
place
wanted.
of privilege.
sidelines of a cyber football game.
Right
Now, I always ask this: does Vel survive the series, and is she off
Does
world
she-
or off planet? Like,
do-
do you think
does
she
she
dies
su-
on camera, or do you think she's alive during the movies and stuff like that? We just don't see her.
I think she's I don't really know yet. Ask me again. Couple episodes.
I think she's
Maybe
making it-
the
she'll make
Rogue
it through
One
the season.
She
Rogue
definitely
One
makes it
special
through the-
edition. Mon Mothma comes up and she's like, "For those wondering, my sister is on vacation right now in Chandrilia," and then she talks
Right.
to Jyn Erso. That's probably.
I do think.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Well, and here's the other thing, right? I always like to think, what's the happy ending for this character,
Yeah, you always want to happen.
right? And her and Cinta could,
That ain't gonna happen.
she might show Cinta the light, and her and Cinta might be off,
Yeah, but Cinta killed all
canoodling
those.
on Bespin.
Cinta killed all those kids on Aldhani.
Aldhani.
Yeah,
I mean,
we never revisited that, did we?
Wait, what? Cinta killed kids on Aldhani?
that's the rumor. That's the
Killed
rumor.
that. Yeah, that's why she's all upset when she's leaving. Remember in the heist, she's watching over those kids.
Well, it was the mother.
yeah.
The
She goes
mother
Anakin
and the
Skywalker.
Oh yeah.
Mother, the son.
Yeah, you never hear
mother,
from them
Imperial
again.
officer.
You
It's
don't
just
hear
one-
about survivors in
It's
the
just
Aldhani
one
thing.
kid.
It's one
But
kid.
yeah, you're right.
The mother,
Oh.
like an Imperial officer, I think there's one in there.
Yeah.
Master Cinta,
And
there's
the
too many of them. What are we told to do?
And that Imperial engineer that we all thought was going to be someone important.
I didn't think so. I was like, y'all are wasting
Oh,
your
that
time.
feels like so. Like,
I'm saying we all collectively, like Star Wars fans.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
well,
Everyone
the
was like-
engineer was clearly going to be Snoke. You
Well,
know what I mean?
Right,
But
right.
right.
But he got arrested before
he got arrested en route.
All right, so I think we should just move into the meat of the episode, which takes place at the
Cassian
prison.
Andor.
Ooh, Cassian Andor.
Cassian Andor.
Yeah, one more time.
Cassian Andor.
Cass.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
That's terrible. That scared me, by the way.
You could work on it.
It did, and it also sounded like a motorcycle was saying, Cassian Andor.
So I don't
Lord.
think there's a lot to talk about with the prison, but also at the same time not a lot to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Because we're not going to wax poetically on Cassian kind of having his little short brief trip to the bathroom and sawing through a
Very
pipe,
goth,
right?
Yeah.
Just that he seemed to get his groove back.
Yeah, I
this
definitely
episode, right?
agree with you. And again, you and I have different opinion on this, where you think he's in shock. I think
Well, the previous episode, he
sure,
was. Yes,
right.
yes.
But I think Cassian just in general as a character is pretty reserved until a switch is flipped. Until he's given purpose, he tends to sit in the back and not
What
say
was
a
the
lot.
switch flip moment for him then? The flip switch.
I think he just realizes how bad his conditions were, right? So last episode, I think he was just sort of soaking everything in, more so than being in shock. I think there's definitely an element of being in shock, but his character generally sits back, shuts up because he doesn't want to be noticed,
Yes.
right? And then once he sort of has a goal and has something in mind, clearly between last episode and this episode, he did get a fire lit under him.
He's very cerebral, is what you're saying. He lets everything kind of into the brain to settle. Yeah.
He waits until he has
A move to
a
make.
better grasp,
Yeah.
so that he has a move to make.
I think what was interesting too about Cassian in this one scene when they're constructing whatever they're constructing, Kino comes over. He made the move with Olaf and then Kino
The
comes
other
over. He was like, "Oh, smart move." And then he was like, "Did you do that?" He's like, "No, he did it." It was like Taga. And again, I think that goes to your point. He still doesn't want to be known as like the guy who knows stuff. He wants to be, again, not noticed.
He wants to
and-
seem unassuming.
Yeah, unassuming. It's not that he was passing off credit to someone else for the sake of this would be nice for them. I feel like he did it from a place of, oh, it's not me. Don't look at me.
Yeah,
I
don't
do
wanna get noticed.
think there's an element of
Yeah.
giving someone else the credit, but yeah, I think you're right. I think it's 100% just him not wanting to be noticed. Because even the whole again, I always think a trailer for a show is meant to kind of give you the premise of the show, and he says, you walk in like you're supposed to be there, and no one,
They can't believe someone like me would walk
Right.
in there.
So his whole gimmick is that
He's overlooked. He's overlooked.
he's going to be overlooked, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's 100% what's going on. I loved that they set up and foreshadowed how many guards are on each level.
Yeah.
And Kino kind of just being like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, he was a guy that was just, let me do my time, don't screw it up, and I get out of here.
It's set up like we talk about every episode, like the endings. It's set up what I think it was the greatest act out of the series so far.
Sure, I will agree with that.
Well,
Just such a banger of a line and just set up throughout the episode.
We're gonna get there, because holy shit, I'm excited for next episode.
Yeah.
But my brain just stopped.
Okay, so they're figuring out. Okay, go.
Hold on,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
brain started again.
It's up back up again.
Kino could. There's this whole concept this episode. The title is called "Nobody's Listening,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because Cassian's theory is that no one's paying attention to what's being said inside the prison or what the prisoners are doing, except for when they tell them on program.
Yeah.
Even to the point, this is supported even more by the fact that it's an automated voice doing that. And when Olaf is fucking having a stroke,
Yeah.
and he's not on program,
Yeah.
and nothing changes.
Nothing happens. Yeah, exactly.
Nothing happens.
Even
He's
Cassian, when he's like helping him out or
Right.
whoever, like no one's like.
If
"You're not
someone
on
was
program."
watching,
it's
yeah, you're
because
right.
the inmates are running the asylum here,
Right.
And
If-
it's
if
not
anyone was paying
the
attention to
Imperial-
anything-
correctional officers. Or
If
whatever.
anyone was paying attention to anything, they would have all got zapped because Olaf is fucking leaning on the
Exactly.
console. So, what I'm getting at here is, if they were being watched and Cassian's asking Kino this stuff, or if Kino had any way of talking to the Imperials, he could just fucking turn Cassian in.
correct.
But because he does care about his floor, and we see this episode pretty clearly, he cares about the inmates on his floor. He's not going to turn him in because, you know what? This is something prisoners think about and talk about. And as long as Cassian doesn't act on it, who the fuck cares? And he doesn't expect anyone under these conditions to actually act on it.
And he's right that the Imperials would. It's like there's no way anyone can break out of here.
Right.
Like And I'm like, and a lot of the inmates think the same thing. There's no way we can get out of here. There's a pocket of them that believe it, but I think also like that mentality is spreading throughout the facility more and more.
Right.
And so it was interesting to see that portrayed in this episode, because the last episode was just giving you like the layout of like, this is how despairing it is, like how hopeless this place is. This episode was like, there's actually some fight among some of these people to try and get out. Cassian is one of them, and he's also, I think, really lighting that fire more within, at least within his group, to figure out how to get out of there. And it was, like I said, I think feel like Cassian got his groove back in terms of, all right, I got to get out of here. You know, I'm done being, you know, shell shocked for the first month, whatever, of being in this place. I've had enough. This can't stand anymore. I got to figure out a way out here, or I might as well just die.
Well, and the other thing we get this episode that we haven't gotten yet, we've had it implied that the losers are getting electrocuted.
Yes.
Right? And so this episode, we don't actually see it, but we hear it. And
No,
you see it.
we
You
did
see
see
it.
it. We did.
Oh,
see
do
it.
we?
We did. Yeah.
Okay.
It was like they didn't show it like so graphically, but like
because I thought they were just showing the rest of the room and we heard it.
I mean, it was you saw them get into the corner,
But
then there's like a really small spot where you saw a couple guys
Got it.
like
Okay.
Yeah, and if you watch it in the 4DX theater, they actually send
They
scent of burning
they
skin.
jolt you.
But that's how you know.
Either
yeah.
way, my point is that this show does such a good job of implying the violence. And,
Yeah.
And like again with the torture
exactly.
audio.
But once in a while, they will show you Cassian getting choked up by a KX unit. So I mean, you know,
Yeah,
they will show.
Well,
it,
but that's a kink.
but-
That's
yeah,
a
yeah,
kink
yeah.
thing, not a. Yeah.
But no, you're right. They do a great job of letting your mind do the work. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what makes it. I'm going to steal this from Alex and Molly. They'd mentioned how this show does a good job of making it personal, right? And by making us do
Yes.
the mental work and the mental
We
gymnastics to fill in the
insert
blanks,
ourselves into
right?
it. Yeah.
And that's again, this show does such a good job of building up the stress and the tension. Because I'll tell you what, man, I'm fucking stressed watching this show.
Oh, these
In
past
it-
2 episodes.
I mean, how many times today did I say it's so frustrating, right?
Yeah.
Like the Lita and Vel stuff, the fact that Lita and Vel have this wonderful relationship and Mon can't achieve that, it's frustrating to me, right? I
Yeah,
feel the
that's a good point.
frustration of all these characters. I feel the frustration of Syril.
And it's
of-
also the build of the episode too. If you really break down every time you see like when they cut from one character to the next, they're in either a similar situation or the spirit of the situation.
Right.
And that goes also to the writing again of the show of when they're deciding to go from, when you see Bix being tortured to the next scene, I think it was with Cassian and just that level of despair and that build up to it. But it does lead up to the grand finale of this arc.
Yeah.
We're feeling the same way after we felt the heist. We were all excited. How
Yeah.
after you
I mean,
feel the
this
heist?
show-
well, let's
really-
talk about the act out first, right?
Yeah.
So Olaf has his stroke. He
Olaf,
has a-
played by the great Christopher Banks, who said, what are you? To Michael Keaton, who says, I'm Batman. He was also the broker in Guardians of the Galaxy.
So we've got. Oh yeah, he
Great actor.
was.
I mean, and a lot of other things. See, someone, and Alex mentioned, or was it you who meant? No. Alex mentioned that he was in Alien 3, too, in another epic prison, sci-fi prison
he's
movie.
he's the old guy in the prison. I actually like Alien 3. How do we feel? about
Love
Alien
Alien
I
3.
have not seen
Director's
it
cut's
in a
great,
minute.
too.
I mean, it's been a while.
I saw it in the theaters.
I don't think it gets a lot of love, but I liked it.
And, I love bald chicks. I mean, Ripley's bald in that. I love Sly Moore. Bring it on. Bring on the bald.
Oh, there you go.
boy.
When you got to type, you got to type.
You can rub their head.
We're gonna
I'm trying to get my wife to shave her
guys.
head.
Stay tuned for December. Kevin is going to do bald chick tier list on the channel.
Wow. I cannot wait for that.
It's going to
Laura
get
Singh?
so many views.
Laura Singh?
Or
Great.
sing?
Yeah.
Well, she's got a kind of a top
Yeah,
knot
but it's
thing going.
pretty much bald.
I didn't kill her. The fall killed her.
Asajj Ventress.
Oh, that's a good one, too.
Great.
That's another good one, too. Another good one, too. Who else is
Twi'leks are
bald?
technically bald.
I guess, yeah. So
That'd be-
Hera's
I would
right
love
up
to
there.
see a fan art of a Twi'lek with a hairdo. Yeah, just think in your head right now, right? It looks goofy.
Wow, yeah.
Does the hair go all the way down? Is it like a furry thing?
That would be interesting.
Well,
yeah, as for the act out, yeah.
Jason Syndulla has hair,
Yeah.
but he doesn't have Leku.
That's right. He doesn't. Yeah.
I do want to ask. We talk about how long the prison existed, and I'm now more on the level of maybe it's the first time where they started. I don't know where they started recycling.
Yeah, we
people.
talked about this today. Where how long have they been recycling inmates? I don't think they've been doing that until the PORD.
And that's
Right.
why because who's going to shut up about it? But what? And I
Well,
don't
here's
think
what
they
you would do.
recycled it. I think
Here's what you would do. You would take all the guys that are leaving that day, and you go ahead and put them
At a different
on
place.
one
in
floor.
one, because then they all know, but
Yeah.
they can't tell anybody who doesn't know.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
agree.
how you could do
But
that.
then you've got a whole floor of disgruntled people.
Yeah, but
right.
they're also very demoralized because they're back in the system.
Right. And,
but
and
why
I guess
would
you
they-
just reinforce it with a few extra shots
Exactly.
per day. you
Oh
know?
yeah, I'm sure it's even more brutal
Yeah.
for them.
I wonder if they will get into that. But yeah, it's
I
setting
don't,
up.
I don't think they. I don't think they will. And I think that from my understanding with what so we get to see Olaf has a stroke.
yeah,
They bring in a doctor who's also a prisoner.
yeah.
And
he's not he's technically a med.
He's a medic.
Medic, but not. I mean, I guess he's close as you're gonna get to it.
Yeah, he's close. You're gonna get to a doctor.
Oh, Andor again.
Cassian and the doctor, from what I got, I rewatched that scene after we did the show this afternoon, and from what I understood from what the doctor was saying, it does seem like not any. He says not now, right? People
Yeah.
don't get out or not anymore. People aren't getting out, not now.
right.
That's a
right?
great key.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is a standing thing. I think this is a new development, and I think that they haven't had the system in place for how to implement those reassignments, right? And again, I was pointing out that there's multiple stations on that ocean. There's a way you could do it, rotating them in a way that makes it work, but it's not necessarily sustainable, which is what's going to lead to the rebellion or the revolt, I guess. We get that scene where the power shorts out, some sort of massive power surge.
Yeah.
Do you think that's from them killing the
Yes.
floor?
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I read. That's how I read it after they talked about. They just fried everyone. I'm like, well, you would need a massive power surge.
I don't think-
if you kill 700 people or whatever at once.
I don't.
You know?
Oh yeah, I guess so. So if you're killing a whole floor,
Yeah.
and not just a section,
And
right?
it was for like a second or
It's
two.
really
right?
disturbing
Kino-
that you guys are really trying to figure out how many volts it would take to kill a floor of people. I'm sitting here and you guys
Have you methed it out? Oh, you're not sitting here trying to figure it out because you already have the number.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 7,273 cubic volts.
Cubic
Okay.
volts.
I was about 1.21 gigawatts.
I don't think
1.21 gigawatts. How many Emmys is this show going to win, by the
a
way?
million.
ours not that many.
Yeah, I was asking about
for
that.
your consideration.
But yeah, the greatest act out of all time. For the show anyway, I think just because it just led up to that line, and it's like when you hear him say "never more than 12," you're just so amped that Snoke's on board, and I mean not Snoke, I mean Snoke, but Kino. You see how I snuck that in?
Yeah.
No, but that Kino's on board, and next week's gonna be so epic, and like it's on these levels of. I was saying on the show earlier today, I'm as amped for this next episode as I was amped for. The Clone Wars episode,
the Clone Wars,
right before Order 66. He was living with me at the time, and we were just like, "Oh my God, today we're gonna see Order 66 in the Clone Wars universe." And that's how amped I'm feeling for it. Yeah.
I don't think I'm as amped about it. I'm excited, but
Because you have no soul, obviously. And you
no,
hate everything.
because I think the show in general has been a pretty level experience for me.
Yeah.
Right. I think all of it's been really good. I think that this episode and episode 5 have been the two low points, but I think generally this show's just been so brilliant.
So you
that-
didn't like this episode? Or
I did not like this episode. I liked the episode,
It just wasn't
but
on
it
par with
wasn't
the other
on
ones.
par
I
with.
mean, I can understand that because I tweeted out like these past two episodes, especially this one, have been so taxing to go through with all these characters because it's pretty hopeless. It's very bleak.
I just feel like there's not a lot of movement in the plot. There's a lot of movement in character building,
Sure.
in drama, in tension, which again are the things I love about this show.
Yeah.
But the plot itself doesn't really move except for maybe in 2 to 3 places, right? Like so.
Dedra and Syril, or is it that one?
Like
If you think about the prison, right? If you, in my head, I'm like, oh, if we were to do like a movie version of season 1, right? You could get away with the prison of like getting getting there, learning the rules of it. Him asking Circus or Kino like, hey, what are the how many guards? You could set that up, and then you have 1 day shift. Then the old man dies. Then you know what I mean? You could literally do that sequence. I'm not saying you should.
I wouldn't say do season 1 as a movie. I think each 3-episode arc should be a movie. right?
Essentially,
They are.
Because that's
maybe
kind of what
someone
they
will
are.
edit them that way.
Right? Yeah, maybe.
because they're like 40 minutes, basically each. So
Yeah, well, each episode's about 39, 38 minutes.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
They
you
were
got-
talking
you got-
about
you
it
got an hour and a half.
After we were off the show, they were talking about how rewatchable is the series, because like
I
like
can't
Breaking
wait.
Bad is like a rewatchable
I
show,
can't-
but it's
I-
also
I have-
hard to watch
wait
some
to be-
episodes. But like,
it's fair. Yeah.
I
like how
can't-
many times would you be able to watch these dark episodes? Would you skip maybe and just go straight to the
No.
heist?
No way.
So it's part of your permanent reviewing when you watch Star Wars.
Yeah, because even the low points, right, are like the low points don't even, and this isn't me disparaging any other shows, but the low points don't match the low points of Book of Boba or
Yeah.
or Mando, right? Like the low points of this show are still brilliant because they're setting a mood in a way that Star Wars has had a hard time doing outside of camp or heroism, right? Star Wars is really good at setting up camp and heroism. This show is setting up so many other moods of this mood of tension, the mood of hopelessness, of desperation, that and triumph. This show does have triumphs, right? Like I definitely think the latter half of episode 3 has these brilliant triumph moments. But if you look at the latter half of episode 6, that should also mirror that same thing. It's not a triumph. That's the Empire Strikes Back moment. The latter half of episode 6, right? It's in many ways, it's the trench run. They succeed, but unlike the trench run, we're actually seeing all the death because there's just as much death in the right. If you look at the trench run,
Yeah.
fucking 3 pilots survive that.
Yeah.
Not counting Han and Chewie.
Right.
There was 30
Luke
ships too.
Wedge and
Luke Wedge,
who's
and there's
the
a Y-wing pilot. I don't know who it is in canon. I know it's an Alderaanian.
Yeah. I can forget.
I know it's a female Alderaanian pilot.
Oh, I like
okay.
that.
Yeah.
I like that. That's kind of cool.
But I don't know who it is or their significance. But I know they're Alderaanian. I
mean,
think.
what I'll also say about
But
yeah,
so my point is you're getting but that's not what the focus is in A New Hope, right? And that's where this tone shift is, where we have the heist go off and the focus on the heist is, well, your dirty scoundrel friend, I forget his name, the guy that Cassian shoots at the end. Skeen.
Skeen, yeah.
Skeen. Skeen kind of, Luke doesn't go and shoot Han because Han's trying to get money out of the deal, right? Which is what Skeen's doing. It's very much it's like poetry. It rhymes. But that rhyme is the dark, twisted inversion of the story. And that's what I love about this show, where while this episode, I don't like it as much as the other episodes of the series.
Sure.
But it's still wonderful, and it still does so much to set up, because it's sort of this darkened version of a plot line that we really haven't had.
Right. I like this episode because of what it set out to accomplish, and it did it masterfully.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't take any umbrage with that at all. But even if it made me feel like exhausted, by the end of it, I'm like, oh, I just want to get to the next episode because I know we're gonna have a high moment for our heroes, in that episode. But going through this episode is gonna make those highs feel so much more higher, and so that's what that's what the show has done from the very beginning. Build, payoff, or we had a little break, setup, if you will. Now build, and we're gonna get another payoff. And so they have a set way of what they want to do and how they're. We know this already by now. We've kind of been programmed to figure out.
Does it make
how
us
they're
watch the
constructing.
show differently? Because we know the structure, does it make us watch the show differently?
I mean, yes and no. I think because the show is still very unpredictable,
Right.
in terms of where they're going, who's doing what. The tone, I think, isn't terribly unpredictable. It's okay. We're gonna go through some tough times, especially this arc. Okay, these two are gonna be tough because we're gonna be in the prison, and we got to set up. And I wasn't sure how disparaging it was gonna feel, how I was gonna feel with these two episodes in terms of just being exhausted emotionally following these characters and wanting the best for them because I'm so invested in them, and I'm more invested in them because of the struggles they're going through, because we're spending time with the struggle. In the George's version, we don't spend time with the struggle. We hear about it, they talk about it, but we don't live with it. Yeah. So with this show, you live with it for at least one very
really 2 full episodes.
Yeah, 2 episodes.
Right.
You just live with it. So
I wonder,
when you get out the other end, you're like, oh,
how quickly? Well, actually, Kevin, does it make you? Because it makes me watch the show differently.
I don't really pay attention to that because I thought that I was off on my episode count when I didn't realize that episode 7 was standalone. But
so you thought this was the Prison Break?
I just try not to look too into it that way. It would be nice to not know what the structure was because then we wouldn't know if they were breaking out next week and whatnot. But I will say it's hills and valleys storytelling. In my job too, like in scenes that we always say, hey, this scene needs a little bit of a hill and a valley, and you want that valley, so then that hill is so much more satisfying. So for me, the way I applaud this episode is, and I'm not one that's like, oh, I want to see Star Wars without lightsabers, and I love Star Wars lightsabers and the lore and stuff like that, but I do love how they have made an enemy so terrifying, sometimes in a way more scary, probably because of its realistic tendencies, than someone, let's say, with a hood up and a lightsaber. Well, I think I got to give a credit to the writing and the show.
Yeah. I think that's that personal touch that we were talking about, right?
Yeah, agreed.
I will say it does make me watch the show differently. It makes me more light on an episode I'm not as high on, right? And again, I still love the episode. But on an episode I'm not as high on, I can be like, okay, but this episode does such a good job with that act
Sure,
out.
that's completely valid.
I watch it a little bit differently because I go, for example, I'm going to use an example from another episode because we've seen how that payoff is, right? Episode 2, the act out is him, sort of like speed walking through the scrapyard with that drum solo coming in.
Great, I love it.
And it's such like a high note, and then it's literally just him going to meet his buddy in the field, right? Like there's no the follow up in the next episode. There's no structure there.
I wouldn't use that word
for that specific moment. There's no real substance there aside from him just going to meet Brasso and saying, "Hey, I'm leaving the planet." Right?
Yeah.
Right. Like that's not really as big of a deal as what they led into with the act out.
You know what?
But because of the structure of the show, it works so well. Right? Like,
I wonder because of how this show is structured. I wonder if they thought they were going to dump it all at once and it was written this way, and then somewhere down the line they made the decision to do a weekly.
It almost,
aside from the first,
it almost feels like these are shot as 4 movies and not. And I kind of wish these were aired as 4 movies, even if it was 1 movie a month. I'd be great, right?
Sure.
Like,
it would definitely make the anticipation a lot more palatable. Like,
sure.
But nonetheless, I still have fun with the week after the show and talking about it with everybody and whatnot.
Yeah, because that's what with Netflix models and stuff with Tales, right?
Yeah.
With Tales, we haven't had the time to sit and mull over it and talk about it.
Tales was a great sidekick of Sonic, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm more of a Knuckles guy personally, but yeah, okay.
I was all about Tales, dude.
Okay, where are we going?
Yeah, I think we're pretty much done.
Well, I'd like to ask, what do you think about Emmys? Like, I know it's been discussed. Like, do you think that the Academy or the Emmys are going to look highly on this show, and how will it do?
I'm going to give, I don't know what awards the Emmys gives, but I'm going to give Syril Best Supporting Actor.
And no, not Tim. If Brandon was here, he would say Tim.
And I'm going to give Dedra. I'm going to give Dedra Best Supporting Actress.
Oh, I think Dedra for sure has been brilliant.
I could see Syril.
Cassian. I think his performance has been so underrated because he doesn't have as much lines as everybody else.
I think
his
there's
presence and his.
I just like last episode. I think last episode almost is unaffected by who the main character is.
I disagree.
All right, that's fair.
I do disagree.
That's
now
fair.
there are supporting actors and actresses that have barely been in something that get the nod too. Like in the Academy Awards when William Hurt for A History of Violence, he's on the screen for 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Maybe Andy Serkis.
Andy
Serkis is pretty good. I think I still give it to Syril over Andy because
they might have more than one.
I think what Andy is doing is
he's doing his best Snoke.
In the case of Syril, I think what they're doing with Syril is so different than what we typically see from an antagonist.
That's true.
And that's why I want to say him over Andy Serkis, because I do think they've given this sort of socially inept character such an interesting light.
Yeah.
A negative light. You know,
And
I'm not rooting for Syril in any way, shape, or form.
Genevieve O'Reilly, first of all, she's gonna get a nomination. Like,
my hopes are that they do get some props. Even
I really
nominations.
think they do,
writing,
especially for the
hopefully,
writing
and
I
best
think
series,
directing.
miniseries.
I think they have a great shot at just any category.
It worries me because it can pigeonholed and that's why you don't see a lot of superhero movies get. Yeah.
But you know what? This show, while it is set in the Star Wars universe, and there are times where
it's prestige.
if you remove yourself from that title of Star Wars Andor,
the voters won't.
I mean,
the casual voters might get the screeners because someone who used to get screeners.
Right.
When you get screeners, is like they might. Someone
You're
who's not
not
a Star
gonna-
Wars fans gonna be like, all right, I don't really care about this. Oh, by the way, Stellan Skarsgård too.
I would.
I mean, I think it's just Stellan Skarsgård being Stellan Skarsgård, right? Like, I don't think.
I don't know, man.
I think. Hold on. I think he's great.
And,
I think he's great. But I think, I don't know. When you ask me the question, I go, who's doing something I don't expect them to do?
Yeah.
Whereas I expect Stellan Skarsgård to be spectacular because he always is.
Well, then
right?
he should be rewarded for that.
Yeah.
Sure.
I expect music too to get nominated.
music.
Too.
Oh, the music is.
I think
fucking
this show is going to have a ton of Emmy nominations
or
across the
it has a
board.
possibility
Gosh, I hope
to
so.
because
And Golden Globes.
This show is really the first Star Wars show we've had that stands in prestige television with stuff like House of Cards, Game of Thrones.
I also kind of think that Disney wants one of these shows to get some of these
critical
accolades
acclaim.
and some critical acclaim, and they're like, Andor's the best.
Because
way
I
to
don't think
do
any
it.
of them has had critical acclaim widespread.
Marvel
And
shows are not going to get that.
No.
Well, not at least not across the board. They'll get it for like special effects or music, maybe.
I mean, because like Loki's pretty good.
Loki, yeah.
Like
Do
Loki,
you think a Marvel show would take a chance
I think
like?
some Marvel shows have gotten awards, but
But a Marvel show taking a
have they
chance like
gotten a big-
Andor
have
has
they
with
gotten
the
a big,
tone.
like a big best director, best actor.
stuff like that.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that's because Marvel's kind of playing it safe with their TV right now. You know, aside from like the
I
big
don't know
decisions
that
with
I
She-Hulk.
agree.
But
I don't know that I agree with that.
But what about as far as the level where Andor is, where it's such a departure from Star Wars?
I do personally think that, to an extent, Falcon and the Winter Soldier was a little bit like this show,
Sure. Yeah.
Nah, it was a little bit like I disagree. It was a little bit like the Winter Soldier,
which I think is
Captain
like
America.
which I think is like
True,
this show.
but it's still in line with that. It wasn't such a wide departure.
Sure.
It felt like a sequel to that.
But
movie.
I don't think that fits those characters. At least the Falcon. I think that fits Bucky a little bit more. Now we're getting into a Marvel discussion here,
That's
but
for
which
our
is
next
fine.
podcast.
Which is fine. I think eventually we're gonna get into some of that on here. But I don't think that fits the character or the universe in the same way that it does for Cassian and Luce. I don't think that fits.
It's more. You're talking about the wrong thing, though. I'm talking about the brand, right?
Sure.
Star Wars brand. Andor feels such.
I think the problem is
from that with this.
I think the problem is you have to get
this episode.
You have to have the characters that can fit that role. I do think, for example, She-Hulk is a huge departure from the Marvel standard.
Yeah.
I think WandaVision was a departure from the
absolutely.
Marvel standard
Well,
up until
especially those first episodes.
Up until the last couple, but
was that highly regarded by the Emmys and stuff?
I
or
have no.
I don't.
I don't
remember.
follow.
I do feel like there was.
I don't follow any of that.
Accolades for them, but nonetheless. So we've been going. I think we've covered pretty much a lot of stuff in this episode. We are going to be having a Tales of the Jedi breakdown recap.
Gonna air
video.
on Tuesday.
Monday. I'm gonna throw it up
Monday.
on Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So check that out on Monday.
Yeah.
Don't forget. Tell us in the comments. Do you think that the structure of the show makes you watch the show differently? And do you think that Kino Loy is Snoke?
We don't. Okay. Yeah. Just.
Right.
Alrighty, just go ahead and say no.
And if the whole comment
say no.
section's no,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And do you think that Clea is Leia?
No,
No.
that one's a definite no.
It rhymes.
but
It's
Frank,
poetry.
Frank,
Do
you
your
can
thing.
cut that out, right?
Yeah, I can cut that.
Oh, don't cut that.
I won't
out.
cut it out. All right, so thanks for tuning in, and go watch our Tales of the Jedi video. It's out probably now.
It's not.
Well, not right
Well,
now.
no, it'll be out in
It
3
will
days.
be out. It'll be
So
out.
after this,
But if you're watching it later,
go
it's probably
outside.
now.
Go
Yeah,
outside. Have some fun.
Touch some grass.
Yeah.
Scoundrel. Scoundrel. I like the sound of that.